strangely strange bit happening on my
Hi, my name is John Downs and welcome to another edition of On the Track. This is the first time that Max, Corinna and I have been on an adventure, and we're spending 4 days in Ireland. We're off to see the wizard. It was supposed to be a family holiday. Corinna and I have grown very fond of Max over the last year and a bit and treat him basically like a nephew, but it turned into something far more. And synchronistically it started off here at Pembrook Dock, a place with a history of monster sightings of its own.
Back in 2004, I took part in a documentary made for the Australian TV series Animal X, where I travelled to Pembrook Dock to investigate a sea serpent report. Apparently what happened was a group of people having dinner in a pub called the Anchor alongside the dock happened to look out of the window and saw something strange in the water. The barmaid was first to notice something, a huge fin sticking up out of the water. Then the diners and the landlord himself turned about and saw an enormous creature swimming along the dock. The witnesses said it had a snake-like, diamond-shaped head, relatively short neck and a long body. It was dark in colour. They estimated its size at 50 to 60 feet long. They did this by measuring it against a car ferry which regularly crosses the dock. A group of people crowded outside and watched the creature as it swam on its way. The next day somebody anonymously posted a photograph of the creature to the pub. I saw the photograph and went out and measured the estimated size of the creature against a promontory of some natural rocks that go out into the harbour. It seemed to me to be about 60 feet long. It should be noted that Pembroke Dock is the second deepest natural harbour in the world, and it's much warmer than the surrounding waters, often attracting creatures found nowhere else in the British Isles. I would hazard a guess that the creature in the photograph is some sort of large marine reptile unknown to science. It is certainly not a basking shark or a whale.
But we are digressing, as we so often do on the Track. We were in Ireland to visit an old friend of mine, Tony Doc Shields. Probably best known to the Fortean community as the bloke who took a picture of the Loch Ness Monster in 1977, and the guy who invoked lake and sea monsters around the British Isles and Ireland, whilst accompanied by a bevy of skyclad, that's naked to you and me, young ladies who are practitioners of witchcraft. He also happens to be one of my dearest friends and the nearest thing to a father that I still have alive on the planet. And as Corinna and I have been together nearly 5 years, I thought that it was about time that she went and visited her wizard-in-law. And we had a lovely time. It was a very successful family holiday. Many of you might not believe this, but we didn't really talk about monster hunting. We were on holiday. Tony's retired from the wizarding game, and I'd actually prefer to talk about art, music, books, politics, sex, fishing, beer. And I suppose I have to make the ultimate confession here. Both Tony and I do occasionally enjoy a little bit of wine, and a little bit of beer, and a little bit of rum, and sometimes a little bit of brandy. In the epistle of St. Paul to St. Timothy, it says something about, take a little wine for thy stomach's sake and other infirmities. Well, I've got a big stomach, so I can drink quite a lot of wine, but nowhere near as much as Tony can. But that's all fairly irrelevant, because this is a webTV show about cryptozoology. We went for a drive around the Ring of Kerry, an absolutely glorious piece of Irish countryside, which reminded me slightly of my own native North Devon. One of the things which struck me most was the fuchsia, which was living wild all along the hedgerows. Fuchsias are plants from Central and South America, and how they've adapted quite so well to the wild countryside of the west of Ireland I really don't know, but they have, and the bright red flowers set the hillside alight with washes of colour. We were actually running considerably late, because Tony had wanted to take us to Sheehan's Bar in Kilgorlan, where we could learn a bit about Puck Fair, an ancient festivity which involves a goat being crowned King of all Ireland. And as I've always been interested in things like this, I was happy to go along with him. But it meant we were running late. Our original plan had been to go and visit a medieval priory that Corinna wanted to see because of her interest in that historical period, but sadly we were too late. So we ended up a few hundred yards above a place called Lady's View. Lady's View is apparently named because during an official visit by Queen Victoria to County Kerry in the mid-19th century, her ladies-in-waiting had a very good view of the three lakes of Killarney from this very spot. Now, I'd vaguely heard of the lakes of Killarney because the middle lake, Lake Muckross, hit the cryptozoological headlines earlier this century when a large object, either a monster or a shoal of Arctic char, depending on who you believe, turned up on somebody's sonar, and was a 5-minute wonder in cryptozoological circles. I'd always vaguely wanted to see the place. In fact, if I'm going to be honest about it, I wanted to take a couple of quick photos so I could flog an article to Paranormal magazine about it and then move on to the next pub. However, Tony told us to watch the lake and see what happens. So, always doing what my surrogate dad tells me, I did just that, and this is what transpired.
There we go.
And you had to wait, but you know damn well I'd have pointed a camera at you for doing that. You had to wait the bloody batteries run out.
John, the batteries aren't running out. And I just saw one.
You just saw one?
On the camera as well. Went across. It went across, John. John, it went across and then went...
Look at the smug look on that old battery.
And you can see the ripple, Corinna, where it went down.
Yeah, you can see the ripple, that's right.
John, you can see it.
You can
See the bloody massive ripple where it went down.
Yes,
Yeah,
lad.
yeah.
That's what you can
To that side of the log, it went, and that's it. That's
When will they ever bloody learn? Right? Watch. Right?
a duck wouldn't make that big a ripple.
You want to make a bigger ripple? Make a bigger ripple! What's bigger ripples?
Oh, beep! Racket!
How big do you want the ripples to be?
It's true, isn't it?
And again.
There you go. Yeah.
No, that isn't.
That's a squall, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
No, that big thing, that's a squall. Well, that's the white one in the middle, isn't it? Look! Beep! Why have I resorted to having to bleep my profanities? Well, it's simple. I put the full 8-minute video up on YouTube a few days ago. I took the soundtrack off because I swear a bit too much on it, and I don't really want to use the Sex Pistols words, but have the CFZ be shown up as a bunch of foul-mouthed yobs. However, I was accused of having something to hide. The only thing I had to hide was me saying beep. So, because my language is a disgrace, and on the whole this is a family show which is enjoyed by quite a lot of people of all ages, I decided to resort to the old BBC thing of having to bleep my profanities. Sorry guys. What nobody seems to realise is that the whole event was a completely joyous occasion. That's why we were laughing, that's why I was cackling like a loon. And no, none of us, not even Tony, was drunk. Couldn't afford to be at Irish pub prices. Well, what do you think it is that we saw, filmed and photographed? Well, sadly I think some of it has a very prosaic explanation. In my original commentary, I thought that this showed a black object swimming under the water very fast, and causing this torpedo-like wake. If you look close up, you can see it's a bird and it's flapping its wings. You can even see where the bird, probably a cormorant, dropped a fish that had been carrying and veered off out of the way. But, remarkably, you can see that what Corinna described as a torpedo wake, and I can't think of a better word for it, veers off in the opposite direction. What I think it was some large underwater creature chasing the bird. I've made no claims for any of these objects. I've only said that they are anomalous and appear to be animate. But you would not believe the levels of vitriol that I have attracted across the internet. Never mind, it just goes to prove the truth of the title of one of the songs sung by my youngest stepdaughter's favourite beat ensemble, The People Equal Beep. Beat ensemble? What on earth are you talking about, I hear you think? Well, somebody else, while criticising the quality of the YouTube video, said that I was a hopeless old fogey. And I know that it will irritate my darling Olivia to hear Slipknot being described as a beat ensemble, so I just had to do it. However, the monsters, or whatever on earth they were, on Killarney Lakes were not the most exciting thing to happen this month, believe it or not, because almost at the same time, certainly in the same week, something very exciting was happening halfway across the world. The third CFZ expedition to Sumatra was underway. Richard Freeman, Chris Clark and John Hare had visited previously in 2003 and 2004, and now, without John Hare but with the addition of Sumatra veteran Adam Davis and Dave Archer, who'd went along on the Russian trip last year and acquitted himself manfully, they are back, and they spent a fortnight in Sumatra on the track of Orang Pendek, the upright walking bipedal ape of the forests, and by golly, did they find him.
And could you move that way a little bit, Dave? Yeah, we're recording now.
We've just had one of the most awesome experiences out in the jungle. I haven't told any of the others this yet. Dave and I have been waiting to say it for the first time when we got here. What basically happened is myself and Dave, Sahar and Donnie, who are the trackers, were moving through the jungle. I heard the movement of a very large animal and I told everyone to stop. And at that point, Sahar and Dave went slightly ahead while Donnie and I moved round to the side. And then I'll let Dave take over.
Right, from then on, Sahar said, I can see something, there's something up in the tree there, something up in the tree. And I was looking around. I could hear gibbons in the background, but they were a long way off. You know, I looked around, he kept pointing, I couldn't see, and I said, well, I've got this laser pen. And I said, if I point in this laser pen, put it out, and he held my hand until he got the point, and I looked down, there, hanging on the side of the tree, was an ape the size of a chimpanzee, dark, holding on the side like that. We didn't take a picture because it was so bad, you couldn't see his face, his head was there, his hands were hidden behind the branch. He was at this side, you could see his buttocks there, his thigh, in the bottom part of his heel, up his back, and he was broad-shouldered, in black or dark, very dark brown, and holding it onto a tree like that. As we went round to get a better view of it, but when we got round to the other side, unfortunately it had gone maybe up the tree. There's a lot of thick canopy pits up in the tree. Maybe he's gone up to the top of the tree, or he come down because there was a deep ditch nearby and dropped into the ditch and then shot off along the ditch.
Now, at that point, Sahar said, "That is Orang Pendek. That is Orang Pendek." He was so emotional at that point. He burst into tears. He started sobbing in the jungle. We had to console him.
He was crying.
I put my arm around him because he was so upset that he hadn't got a better view of it. He's seen Orang Pendek for the first time in his life, and he was completely overwhelmed. He was bawling, he was crying his eyes out in the jungle, wasn't he? I had to comfort him, as Dave says, because he was so upset. What we did when we got there as well is we've covered over, because it's so wet now, we found a couple of prints which we've covered over now, and we've also got some organics. Richard, if you just come in.
This is what he was chewing.
This is what he was chewing as he was moving. It's rattan, which the Orang Pendek is known to eat. We might have what we think is a hare. It could be fibrous matter, we're not sure, but we'll get these analysed. But what we're absolutely certain of is that was what he was eating. So if there's any DNA on that, then job done. If you turn back to me, this is I mean, to have somebody on the expedition actually see the orang pendek is fantastic. To have 2 people on the expedition to see the orang pendek is enormously fantastic. To have a guide, a forest ranger who knows all the animals here, to become so overwhelmed with emotion when he sees it that he bursts into tears because he hasn't seen a better view of it is incredible. We've really got a great story now, a great story, and I'm thrilled.
We've also found a couple of prints in the area as well, and we have the trip cameras up there ready.
Yeah, what we can add is we've set up the cameras now on the trail where Dave and Sahar saw the orang pendek, and both of them, I think it's fair to say, I'll let you have the final word on this, but it's fair to say both of them are absolutely convinced that they saw the orang pendek, and it's significant that it's good that 2 people have seen it. I wish I'd seen it, but I'm thrilled that two people have seen it. It's fantastic.
Dave, mate, congratulations.
Thank you
Talk
very much.
about beginner's luck. Oh, I'd like to say I'm envious, but I'm too pleased. What a fantastic... Did you get close enough to see its face at all?
No, that's the only thing. This is why I wish I'd just taken a picture of the odd shape, you know, what I could see of it. But because you couldn't see its hands and feet, and you couldn't see its face, but you saw the shape of its head, it was probably about as far off as... How far off was you supposed... That tree... Now that tree over there, see that tree there? That grey one? Like that, but it was lots of thick stuff in front of it. And when I saw it, I had sort of bent down at a funny angle to see it with the laser pointing at it, which was coming very handy for pointing out. And that's when I saw the back of it, and it was sort of half climbing up it.
I thought I'd got good news.
Rich just turned to me and he says to me, because he didn't want me to feel bad, and he was being nice, he says, well, I didn't see that good a view of it. I said, don't do it down, mate, after all this time and all these years.
I'm certain it is. No way I didn't think it was a gibbon because of the size of it. It was just, if you imagine a chimpanzee out in the Sumatran jungle, and then you'll get the idea of what
Way too big to be a gibbon.
It was.
I've worked with chimps and gibbons. I know the difference in the size.
It was solid. It was.
Yeah, no. From an interesting point of view, there's been a lot of theory and speculation about why the orang pendek's trails aren't more often seen on the ground, and it was quite clear that from when I heard the movement of it, its natural instinct then was its natural instinct then was to climb up the tree, to climb up the tree and hide.
Debbie said that as well, right?
And Debbie has said that. And the other thing that I'd say, which is significant about the orang pendek that Dave and Sahar both saw, is it matches the descriptions of the orang pendek the orang pendeks that are up here that I've got off guides. For example, Pak Solok, who saw 2 creatures which are exactly the same description, and Dave didn't know that before I just told him. So it's fantastic.
Brilliant. Dave, in a minute I want you to try and draw what you saw for me.
Okay, that's what I was going to do.
Okay,
yeah.
Cheers,
All
mate.
right.
Shall we have a cup of tea first?
And there you have it, the pages from the expedition notebook as scanned in this morning.
And now for something completely different. This, guys, is an 11-inch tiger salamander. This is the University of Illinois Natural History Survey page, and this is the source that I used to identify the tiger salamander. This is the key to the map of the counties, and vouchered translates into captured, and the purple is vouchered after 1980. What makes my finding of the tiger salamander in this part of Illinois unique and cryptozoological is that this species has not been reported or captured or photographed in my county or in the entire surrounding area. And so I stumbled onto this little guy. Actually, he's pretty large. There you see him all stretched out. But according to the the University of Illinois. There's never been a tiger salamander reported in my area, and I actually found this salamander in the well shaft of my farm. This is our well. So here is the well shaft that I actually, well, my father found it, and I was helping him fix our well. We had a broken pipe in our well, and my dad went down into the well to look, and when he was down there, he saw this huge salamander. And obviously, as you can see my hand next to him, he is actually very large. And so 13 inches, I believe, is their max or expected max for growth. But this guy is 11 inches. And he's actually quite impressive. I find it ironic, due to the old story of Lord John Lambton's worm, that I found this salamander in a well shaft. However, I was not fishing on a Sunday, but that's outside the point.
It's not all about fun stuff like Illinois drain pipes, Irish lakes, or the mountain jungles of Sumatra. The CFZ also has its downside, and its downside seems to usually be borne by Graham, who has to do the maintenance of our 200-year-old building that's frankly falling apart.
It's going to be a bugger getting down, isn't it?
Yep. Just a bit.
Just up here fixing this last bit of guttering. The runoff from the roof round here. The wind tends to lift this up and down, and I'm just fixing it to the wall.
The house in which we live and work is over 200 years old, and it's a non-stop task for Graham to keep it from falling apart.
Yeah, decent gutter bracket. I thought they were all decent, but looking further along, they're well, pretty indecent. Let's go have a closer look. It turns out this one is only held on by rust. As for the one at the end, it's just hanging by a stalk. That wire there is my emergency fastening.
The CFZ's a valuable resource for people all around the world. Unfortunately, in the last few years of Jonathan's father's life, it was rather neglected. Being several hundred years old, it's requiring quite a bit of care and attention to keep on top of things and, well, perhaps stop it falling down.
Strangely strange but oddly normal.
And now it's time for our regular monthly look at new and rediscovered animals. I've been a fan of amphibians ever since when, at the age of 4 or 5 in Hong Kong, I kept a jam jar of tree frog tadpoles on my windowsill, and I remember staying up all night watching with excitement as the baby froglets took their first tentative steps into adulthood. But I'd never heard of fanged frogs before, but apparently there are such things, and 2 new species have made the headlines this month. One was found by our old mate Steve Backshall in Papua New Guinea, and the other was found deep in the remote parts of the Thailand rainforest. It appears that the species here uses its fangs in contest with other males as well as to catch and kill its prey. Also recently discovered in the same region is this incredibly beautiful new gecko. It turned up on Cat Ba Island in northern Vietnam. It has large, beautiful cat-like eyes and leopard stripes along the length of its body. The scientist who found it, Lee Grismer from La Sierra University in California, said he was so engrossed in trying to capture it, it took his son to point out that his hand was resting on a rock, inches away from the head of a pit viper. We caught the snake and the gecko, and they both proved to be new species, he said. A new ghost shark or chimera species has been described from the coast of southern California, and it's a particularly dark and weird creature. It's a big, weird-looking, freaky thing, said ichthyologist Doug Long of the California Academy of Sciences. They have some shark characteristics, and they have some which are very non-shark. Perhaps the most intriguing feature of the newly described species, Hydrolagus menelophasma, is a presumed sexual organ that extends all the way from its forehead, called a tentaculum. They have this club on top of their heads with spikes. People think that it's used for mating, Long said. It's like a little mace with little spikes and hooks, and it fits into their forehead. It's jointed and it comes out. We're not sure if it's used to stimulate them female or hold the female closer. The species is just another example of the tremendous unknown biodiversity that still exists, even near heavily populated regions like the Los Angeles coastline. Well, most researchers would be happy to find one new species of animal in their lifetime, but a team of 18 researchers from Australia has discovered 850 new species of invertebrate, which include various insects, small crustaceans, spiders, worms and many others. They are all living in underground water, caves and microcaverns in the harsh conditions of the Australian outback. What we found is that you don't have to go searching in the depths of the ocean to discover new species of invertebrate animal. You just have to look in your own backyard, says Professor Austin from the Australian Centre for Evolutionary Biology and Biodiversity at the University of Adelaide. Well guys, that's about it for this episode. I'd like to say thank you very much to Max and Corinna, in particularly, who came with me on the Irish expedition, and we had such great adventures together. Thank you to both of them, who've been my sterling camera people on this episode. Thanks to Graham, who's also been good with his camera work. Thanks to Derek Grevner for his report from Illinois. And thanks to the away team who went to Sumatra for everything that they have done. It really was the best expedition that the CFZ have done yet. It's been a long, strange month, and the last couple of months of this year look like they're going to be still just as strange. It's been a momentous year for the CFZ, and we're getting there slowly. But remember, keeping the circus on the road is an expensive and time-consuming operation, so if you feel like giving gifts of time, money, expertise or equipment, please get in touch. We're always looking for people to get involved with the CFZ. So, until next month, be seeing you.
With me and tiptoe through the tulips forever.